Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe show. My name is Joe Sansom, and I'm joined by Jack Kelly. And despite the positiveness that I've tried to emphasise in my voice there, I'm not feeling too positive. Jack, how are you doing?
I share that. It's not going to be a sunshine and rainbow sort of podcast today. We have a lot to talk about, but a lot of negatives rather than positives, Joe.
Yeah, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, we said the next time that we talk was obviously going to be just before the Brentford game. And we were thinking, oh my goodness, this Brentford game is going to be, at that stage, like potentially winner takes all for the 8th spot, which to this point, we still do not know if it's a European spot because we don't have the cup final yet. So it'd be almost quite amusing if it was all for nothing and Crystal Palace do win it. And then we realise our season really did end on the 30th of March, 29th of March, whatever it was. Ultimately, our season is now over, Jack, which is hugely disappointing. We were nearly in this position a couple of weeks ago when we didn't beat Southampton. When we thought we weren't going to beat Southampton, and we sort of said if we hadn't won that game, we didn't think there was enough fixtures left with a good opportunity for points to get us there. But this was almost the same vein. Everton, a much better side than Southampton, but a side with nothing to play for, a side suddenly leaking goals for fun, a side with one win in their last however many games. Really been on quite a poor run, thrown it away against Ipswich last week. And everyone just thought, you know what, this is the one, we have to win this and then see where we are at the end of the weekend and going into that Brentford game. And to be honest with you, if we'd have done that, then 2 out of the 4 results would have gone our way, because obviously Fulham would have won and Bournemouth lost. What that would have meant is that if we'd have won our last 2 games, we'd have had an unbelievable shot of it. And don't get me wrong, after the performance that I saw, I wouldn't have expected that because we threw it away. We're not going to come on here and say we deserved anything from this game, because we had a really good opening half an hour where we were well in control. We scored to go 1-0 up and we deserved it. And we were looking for a second. And I really don't know what happened from that point, to be honest, Jack. What did you think from your view in the press box? What changed on around roughly that half-hour mark? And I know that if we had gone into half-time at 1-0, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation about it being so early on in the game. It would have very much been the goal changed the game. But in my opinion, that's not what happened, because Everton started seeing more of the ball. We started creating less and less and stopped pushing really for that second, it seemed.
Yeah, we conceded a lot of possession. It was a good start. It was, when we went 1-0 up, I was thinking this is exactly how we should respond and we should go. This is how the game plan should work. And I think that the goal was really well made. Smith Rowe sort of beautifully taking the ball down, playing it into Jimenez, great header, 1-0. We just regressed and we just sort of let Everton come back into the game and then lost a lot of territory. And I just really think that missing Sasha Lukic alongside Sander Berger, it just created a little bit more space for Everton, I think. And obviously Pereira was occupying that position. But Everton were just growing into the game and they were roared on by what I thought was a very, very good away support. And it was just a little lapse in concentration at right back between Kenny Tete and Andreas Pereira, which led into Alcaraz having a chance, which led to the throw-in, which led to the goal. The goal from Mikalenko is incredibly fortunate in the way it just sort of deflects into the back of the net. Obviously, there's a deflected goal we conceded against Aston Villa at home this season as well. I didn't think Everton necessarily deserved to be level at half-time, albeit they had grown into it. They didn't create much at all. Alcaraz and Jack Harrison were the only big chances. But then again, I didn't think that we had created loads after getting the goal to go ahead. And that's the real frustrating issue. I don't see why a team like Everton, who had nothing to play for, we go 1-0 up and we could have completely taken them to the sword. Especially they were missing some key players. Michael Keane, who I thought was a surprise to start, then he obviously goes on to score. I know what you mean. The game didn't necessarily change with that goal that they scored right before the break, but it was so odd. was so odd the way the game just sort of, it was basically like everyone was sort of like, oh, okay, 1-0 up, I'm going to go for a pint at half time. And everyone was sort of like making their way into the concourse. And then suddenly, a lot of people probably would have missed it because they were down in the concourse, but the goal goes in. There's like almost like a, Everton fans hardly react because most of them are down in the concourse having a beer. And it was almost like nothing had happened, but yet so much had happened. And it just changed the whole complexion of the first half. And like, from like, it was added, 3 added minutes, and we're into like the last 30 seconds of the half. And I was thinking, 1-0 at half time. This is pretty good. And we'll just kick on in the second half. Suddenly it just all changed with the 1-1. David Moyes said after the game it changed his team talk, was much more encouraging. Marcus Silva apparently missed the goal because he was already working his way down from the gantry down to the dressing room. So, I mean, how frustrating that would have been for him to sort of have missed it and have wondered where that goal even came from. And then the second half, I literally tweeted, like, as the teams were coming out, this is the most important 45 minutes of the whole season. And we just did not turn up. Harry Wilson had a couple of efforts off target. Apart from that, I don't remember. Sessegnon had a chance saved by Pickford. And then they equal. No, and then Harry Wilson had a chance as well. He tried to lob the keeper. I think that was at 1-1. And it was just for the importance that we had on this half and this 45 minutes, just not enough aggression, not enough penetration in the final third. It was all just very second gear, 6 out of 10 stuff. And then Everton go and score really, really poor goal to concede at the back post. Another goal conceded from a set piece. And then we give the ball away from kickoff. Anderson gets in a muddle. Beto shoots, and it was one of those shots that just had no power on it whatsoever. And it somehow squirmed through Leno's arms. And it was a very similar feeling to Palace at home in the FA Cup, where you're basically like, well, the game's over. We're just sort of just going to watch this lull out into whatever result it's going to be. And it was almost like, well, our cup runs over against Palace, and it was just sort of like sad atmosphere. And then it was the exact same against Everton, just seeing out the remainder of time, knowing that the game was over and the season was over, Joe.
I think it would be a lot easier to take if we'd lost 3-1 and the goals had been sort of catching us out as we'd really pushed for it and we'd given everything. And it just didn't feel like that at all. What really is great to me about this game is that Everton had absolutely nothing to play for other than professional pride, which every team has always got to play for, whether relegated, whether you've won the league already, like Liverpool, whatever. You go out there because you're professional footballers and you want to win the game. But Fulham had loads to play for and Everton didn't. And I'm struggling to understand why Everton are first to every second ball, why they're faster to things, why they're looking more direct, why they're looking more open for a goal, why they're defending with their lives and celebrating every tackle, whereas we were just absolutely, I don't even know the word for it, so flat. Flat is an understatement in that second half. I mean, there was that little bit of pressure, like you say, at the start, where probably best chance was that Wilson lob over Pickford, which was probably the closest we came to scoring. It was a really good save, really good speculative effort from Wilson, to be honest. But aside from that, there was no real big chances. And the way we are conceding goals is just awful in terms of the goal that we are conceding in every game at the moment. Let's go back all the way to Bournemouth. Let's go back to Bournemouth just for the sake of this. A breakaway goal that we should have stopped at least 3 times. There was the poor effort from our midfielders. There was the bad clearance from Robinson, and there was Anderson showing him literally inside rather than outside. Then you go to the Chelsea game. The first goal, mistake from Robinson in the clearance. The winner from Neto, Kearney should have stopped it out on the wing. A few players are slow to get over to the cross. I think Lukic or Berger is slow to try and cut out the cross, potentially even Castagne, and then Anderson turned his back on the ball. Then you go to Southampton, poor goal from a set piece. Exactly the same thing the following week against Villa. Exactly the same thing this week against Everton. Leno should have saved the third goal. First goal shouldn't have happened. It's a cock-up from about 5 players. Firstly, Pereira and Tete getting in each other's way. Then Leno coming out to punch where I don't think he actually needed to. Then the deflection from Pereira after someone got muscled off the ball trying to get it away. Every single one of those goals is extremely frustrating and preventable. And you're going to be annoyed when you concede any goal. Don't get me wrong. we're Fulham fans. Any goal going in, we're going to try and find a way that, if this had happened or if that. But those are comical, all of them. Every single one of those goals is comical and silly. We don't seem to score any of those goals. It's something I've noticed. The goals that we think, got a bit lucky there. I'm thinking of the most recent goals we've scored. They're all well worked, and there's positives for that, and that fantastic that we're scoring these great goals. But I feel like when you're watching TV back in 2010s and they go, the trouble with Arsenal is they always try and walk it in. And I feel like we don't have the ability to score a goal when either we're not on top. We don't have the ability to see out pressure when we're not on top, which is something that I think we were doing at the start of the season, which is why I'm frustrated. So let's just read out this list of games, Jack. And I tweeted this, so you might already know what this is about. But I'd love to know what you think. What similarity, trend brings all these games together? It's a long list. West Ham at home, Man City away, Villa at home, Everton away, Wolves at home, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away, Bournemouth at home, Brighton away, Chelsea at home, Everton at home. Any idea?
Well, that's all the games we were leading in.
All games that we've led in 1-0, as in we scored the first goal of those games. Now, it's one of the stats that's been everywhere in terms of like how many points we've dropped. I think it's now 28 from winning positions, which is level with, I think, Southampton. We've gone 1-0 up in all of those games I just mentioned. That's 11 games. We've drawn 5 of them, but we've lost 6. What concerns me more than that, to be honest, I thought we'd have lost more, but what concerns me more than that is that after going 1-0 up, we have conceded 24 goals in those games, and we've only scored 3. And those 3 goals came in against Bournemouth, against Man City away, which is a consolation, and against Liverpool. Again, the one against Liverpool and Bournemouth were to put us in the lead again. We didn't win either of those games. So it's a game management thing that comes from Silva, that comes from the coaching staff, that then comes from the players as well. I don't think it's a failure of one of them. I think it's a failure of all of them, because I think that Silva's game management and subs have been frequently frustrating recently. As much as he's been good in an attacking sense when we've needed a winner, for example, against Southampton, when the subs he made at halftime really changed the game. We've got the most goals scored by substitutes this season. His defensive subs are what frustrate me. I think that he's bad at reading the state of the game in terms of if we are already under the cosh and we need to go to a 5 at the back, for example, or if bringing a 5 and a 5th defender on would actually lead to pressure that wasn't currently happening. An example of that is Everton away. We were absolutely cruising through that, brought a 5th defender on where we didn't need one, sat back and they equalised. Whereas I would argue that in a game like Chelsea, where we were already massively under the cosh, that was a time to bring a 5th defender on or a more defensive substitution, unlike Tom Cairney in central midfield. I feel like he's got it wrong too many times for it to not be an issue. But I feel like the players themselves have to manage the state of the game better. And, for example, we go 2-1 down against Everton from that set piece. The game is not completely done. We've seen Brighton have come back, but we immediately give the ball away, rushing things, trying to force things to happen. That's not how you score goals. And ultimately, Everton on the break did us. And Leno obviously should have saved that shot. He'll know that better than anyone. There's not been too many this season where I think Leno, you absolutely should have saved that, but you didn't. So I think he can get a pass. But ultimately, it's just such frustrating end to what was a fantastic season for 3/4 of it, Jack. But we've tailed off, and we have got 2 really tough games coming up where I can't say that I've got any confidence in this team to go and get a win in either of them and get our record points tally. I would absolutely snap your hand off for a point in either at this stage for 2 reasons. Firstly, to hopefully stop Brentford finishing in 8th. That being said, if they get a point against us, they've still got a great chance based on fixtures elsewhere and based on the position they find themselves in now. And City, I'd take a point because we never get anything against City. And I'd love to stop the rot and stop the inevitable script that is De Bruyne's last game in England. Unless he signs for another English club in the summer. His sort of farewell tour that he's going on and playing really well. The Brentford game, Jack, is something we should probably come on to. We're going. We've got a sold-out away end, 1,700. Kew Bridge is closed. Brentford are in their best ever Premier League form. It's the first time they've ever won 4 games in a row. We're in awful form. is it almost so negative that you're expecting a bit of a shock?
Yeah, the cards haven't really fell in our favour for this fixture at all, really. When the fixture list came out and saw Brentford away, penultimate game, I thought, yeah, again, we're playing them really, really late on in the season. And it's an opportunity for us there could be some real significance on that game. There is some significance on that game. But unfortunately, it's come at a time where the season's sort of out of reach for us now. If we were to win, we'd go 1 point behind them going into the final game, and it would be quite funny to win there. And when the stakes are not as high as when they were, if it would have beaten Everton, then it would be quite funny for them to sort of be compounded to that fantastic run of form they're on, and then go and lose to Fulham at home, who have, I wouldn't say got nothing to play for, but have less to play for than they could have had. I really would rather not have this game right now coming up. I'd rather the season be over, but we've got 2 more games to play. There, of course, is pride to play for, the derby. These are all motivating factors that Silva can get the squad up for this game. There's going to be 1,700 Fulham fans in the away end who will feel overall, I think, proud of the team for the season we've had, but recency bias and recent results and recent lapses in concentration, fans are going to go into this game feeling very, very frustrated that it could have been not only that, but to have to listen to Brentford, sing and let's just say if we were to go 1-0 down very, very early, I think it would be a case of I wouldn't be surprised if fans were to leave this game early, very, very early, given the train strikes, given they don't want to really have Brentford lord it over us. And it's such a weird contrast because the game at Craven Cottage was one of the most incredible bits of bragging rights you can have, scoring 2 goals in added time to snatch points away from Brentford when they deserved absolutely nothing from the game anyway. And then you fast forward. It's just funny how football changes and the perception changes between 2 teams. You fast forward a few months and they're in a position where they can guarantee European football with a win, or I think almost guarantee. I'm not sure. It depends on Crystal Palace. We're obviously now looking at that FA Cup final as hopefully Crystal Palace can win the FA Cup and take the European dream away from Brentford. And this is the thing, they sort of come sneaking from behind and have basically, we've been in this race for months and Brentford have been not really considered in this race, and then suddenly they go on a run of form and then they're in it. And the fixture computer has not been kind in the way that this fixture has fallen and the circumstances behind it, and it makes me dread this game more than any other game I think I remember. There are games where you fear the opposition. There are games where you think like Fulham are going to get an absolute walloping today. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case, but I think it's going to be an incredibly frustrating game for someone who. For fans who can't keep a cool head when they hear opposition fans singing about them, taking the piss out of us because of our little collapse this season. And I think that any Fulham fan wanted to go into this game with the idea that if we were to win, we could get into Europe, or if we were to get a result, it would enhance our chances of Europe. And it's just sort of swung the other way completely, to the point where Brentford, who are now 8th in the table and on fine form, could really hammer home their home advantage and prey on our vulnerabilities. And that's going to make it for a very uncomfortable afternoon. There's also another point to be made about Anthony Robinson. I was like, okay, so if he's not playing against Southampton, but then he plays against Villa, but he doesn't play against Everton, surely that means he plays against Brentford. But with the season sort of nearly all sort of over, are we going to risk him to play another game of football this season? I'm not sure. I really think that, Joe, that whenever we don't play Robinson, it's incredibly noticeable with the attacking outlet that he has on the left-hand side, the overlapping runs, the link up with Iwobi, the link up with Smith Rowe. I love Sessegnon more than any other player in the world, but obviously it's a completely different profile of left-back and of player in Ryan Sessegnon. And Jedi not being there is going to obviously, I just think I know it's predictable what Jedi does in terms of his overlapping runs, but no one can stop it because he's so quick. And if we don't have that, we get to the left-hand side and it's very much a case of slowing things down, passing it back to Sander or passing it back to Lukic or passing it to Pereira, trying to look for holes, going to the other side, putting a poor ball into the box and then headed away ahead of Raul Jimenez. And yeah, I think just going back to Saturday, it just made me realise that this squad needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. And the worrying thing about it is, Joe, that basically every single Premier League team is going to get better over the summer. That doesn't matter if you're Spurs and you finish 17th, or United you finish 16th. Wolves, Everton, Palace, Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle, Chelsea, they'll all get better, and we have to get better. And right now we're in a state where we don't even know if our manager's going to be here next season.
Yeah, and ultimately we look like we might finish 5th in a 3-horse race for 8th, because I think at this point, time recording, Palace are 2 points behind us. I expect that Palace will probably win that game at home against Wolves. Not definitely. Wolves have had a decent run of form into the last couple, but whereas I don't see 3 points coming, if I'm honest. This is a game on Sunday where we need to play for pride. And not get into a situation where we're the ones that have helped give Brentford give Conference League place. Because ultimately, look, take all bias out of it, they're a very good side. They've got attacking players that we do not have the same quality of, who would get into most teams in the league in Mbeumo. And Wissa is a fantastic striker as well. Kevin Schade has been in good form. Damsgaard's had a great season. It's really annoying to look at. And it's one of the reasons I was so confused when they came to the cottage at the start of November and didn't play football, because I think man for man, from an attacking sense, they have a better attack than us, and they did then, and they could have scored goals, but they chose not to. And that's why I enjoyed those late goals even more, because I felt like they just tried to do a number on us. And what we need to try and do is do what they did, hopefully with slightly more football played, but just see it through. In terms of the team, Jack, I mean, ultimately there's a few question marks about players that should be playing. Robinson is one of them. I feel like if Robinson isn't available, then we should go to a back 5. And that's because of Sessegnon's strengths, and also the fact that we've been defending so poorly, if I'm being honest, that I feel like an extra defender in the box wouldn't be such a bad thing, and just try and set up solidly and play on the break. I think that Diop probably merits. I do apologise. My dog's as angry as I am at the moment. I'm just getting his toy. I think that if you're Anderson right now, you're lucky to be in the team. And I think you made another error the other day. I think if you're Pereira, you're lucky to be in the team. He made basically 2. I think Jimenez, you're in the team. Good goal. But there's so many players that you would think that if there was someone suitable to replace them, it would happen. So, for example, I would go Leno in goal. Made a mistake. Still, obviously, our best goalkeeper. Not a conversation to have. Left wing back, Sessegnon. Let's mix it up. Cuenca, give him a chance. We've got nothing to play for. Give someone that's got something to prove a chance. Bassi in the middle, controlling our space, with space to push on when he gets the ball, and Diop on the right with Tete. Diop and Tete, when they were together on the right-hand side of our defence, it's the best who defended all season earlier on. So I stand by that. Lukic, hopefully back alongside Berger. I think I agree with you. Berger struggled on his own, as Lukic would the other way around probably. Good to have them back together, hopefully. I'd play Josh King. I'm putting out that. I'm not saying this is what will happen. I'm saying this is what I want to happen. I'd start Josh King, someone with a bit to prove, someone that is a bit unpredictable, that can play as that third attacker, third midfielder, I should say, and be basically positive. And then I think you've got to go with Raul and one other player. And that player, for me, could be anyone, depending on the game plan that we produce. I'd probably go with... goodness me, I've got to be honest, I don't particularly want to start any of them. I think Adama, just for the fact that he's someone that we can use to push Brentford back. Adama's cameo annoyed me in the last 2 or 3 games, to be honest with you. Southampton aside, where he was very good. But I didn't like his performances against any of the other sub-appearances he made basically since the international break, including when we beat Liverpool. So yeah, that'd be my team. I'd go for something a bit different, try and unsettle Brentford, try and make it uncomfortable for them. I feel that we're too open with our back 4 at the moment. I know there's all these stats about how we've got quite good expected goals conceded, but I feel like that's taken its toll a little bit on the last few games. I feel like we're conceding more chances than we should be. Against Villa on another day, to be honest, they score 3. But that's what I'll go with. And you know what? I'm going to end this slog of negativity that I've been doing and say I'm going to be a bit positive here. I reckon we'll get a 1-1 draw at Brentford. That is my prediction. I reckon it's all in their favour. The pressure is fully on them. There's actually no pressure on Fulham at all. And if they know that there's a European spot, if they basically win their last 2, I mean, they're in a position where, for example, if let's say Man City win the FA Cup on Saturday, they would go into this game knowing that basically, if they beat us, Europe's done. For the reason that Brighton have got to play Liverpool, horrible game, which, let's face it, even if they get a point, they might not win. Bournemouth, same with Man City. If both of those didn't win, it's basically done. So that's where we're at. 1-1 draw. Why not? Let's go with Bassi goal from a corner. Let's get our own set piece revenge. Mbuemo or Wissa for them. Don't know which one, but one of them is definitely going to score. What do you think, Jack? And what would your team be?
Look, I like the idea of a 5 in terms of it makes sense. I just think that whenever I've seen us play over 5, albeit we've got some results doing it, Chelsea away, I think Wolves away as well, we just look so stiff. We don't look very free-flowing at all. And it just makes me want to play a 4 and actually go for it. I think that we're going to have to try and go for it and at least, we'll be cautious in our approach, of course, but I think a 5 is, I wouldn't say it's negative. I think it's more defensively, with more defensive solidness in mind. But I think that we should go for a 4, just so that there's a little bit more space for us to occupy, and then we can have an extra man in midfield, and then we can have a 3 in attack. I'm not like super excited about this at all, really. I get the point about Diop coming in. I think he could come in, but I just think of that Diop error against Brentford a couple of years ago, and it makes me not want to play him against Brentford, given that Brentford will probably press really, really high, and he could be forced into a mistake. That being said, Bassi could make a mistake. Yauki Madison could make another mistake. That could happen. I think it will probably be Leno, Tete. I don't know about Robinson. I don't know. I'm good for now. I think Sessegnon will play left back. It'll be Yauki Madison and Bassi. Lukic, Berger, probably Smith Rowe. I thought he did really well. I don't think he should have been taken off when he was taken off on Saturday. I know Josh. I would like to see Josh start, and I think that would be great, and I think that would make a lot of sense, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Left-hand side, Iwobi, striker Rao, right-hand side, Harry Wilson. It just doesn't excite me. It's just because I think Iwobi's tailed off a lot. I think that Rao, obviously, got a chance to extend his deal, but Muniz is really the striker you want to be playing in these sort of situations. He's obviously injured. Harry was okay on Saturday. A little bit more dangerous on the right-hand side. I'd maybe start Adama just so there's a little bit more pace on the break. Just cursing that we don't have Reece Nelson, and we haven't had Reece Nelson for a few months. Obviously, you don't know how that's going to end up. He showed good glimpses of himself when he was playing, and he also showed glimpses where he wasn't so good. But boy, he would probably make some sort of difference to this team. I'm just rattling through that 11, just feel incredibly frustrated at how this season sort of ended up, where I'm sort of annoyed while I should be excited going, yeah, we should play this player and this player and this player, because they're going to really excite us and put defenders under pressure and create chances. But just, we're so stiff in the final third recently. The goal we scored on Saturday, very, very good. But it's like every time we get to the final third, we don't know what to do. We don't know whether to shoot, we don't know whether to pass. Crosses come into the box, cleared away. It's too predictable. And the free-flowing football that we played under Silva and in the Championship in the first season in the Premier League, it's still there. We still have all the capability to do it. But it feels like we're just missing something. And obviously Pereira could play over Smith Rowe. King could play. Osman could play. I just don't think that necessarily is going to happen. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think Fulham could score. We also couldn't, we might not score. I could really see a situation where we race into a 2-0 lead in the first half. I could also see a situation where we lose 3-0 and we're booed off. There was a game, the penultimate game of the season at Griffin Park in 15-16, and we were singing "You're Not Fit to Wear the Shirt." Now, I don't think we're ever going to be...
Was that the one where...
Jazz Richards.
Is that Jazz Richards? Yeah.
I don't think that if anyone was to sing that to any players on Sunday, I think they need to have a long, hard look at themselves. I'd had this, I took a step back after Saturday and I just went, look, it's been an incredibly good season, but we're just very, very frustrated with what's happened in the last few weeks. And Joe, I just want to finish by just asking you, there's this narrative, there's this trend that's sort of been going around, and it's based off Marco Silva's 4 seasons at Fulham, where basically at the end of the season, even though we were basically champions of the Championship, we just tailed off. We lost to Huddersfield, we lost to Coventry, lost to Derby, we lost to Nottingham Forest. Obviously, then we go beat Luton 7-0, and we beat Preston 3-0, and it was fine. We went up. We then lost to Sheffield United 4-0 on the final day. And then the same thing happened in the first season of the Premier League. Then the second season, last season, we were massively tailed off. And it's happened again this season. What's it down to? What do you pin that down to?
I really can't, which is why I'm quite frustrated, because you see arguments about squad size. The squad's the same size as it was before the international break. Yes, we've had probably a few more injuries recently than we did before, but a lot of the same key players that were out are still out, or we've got some players back, like Wilson. For this run-in, we've got one of our dangerous players back. I honestly can't put it down to anything, because I've been frustrated by some of Silva's decision-making in terms of team selection and subs for a while, in terms of maybe overplaying certain people. Part of that is down to a lack of choice. We know that he likes a smaller squad, and I think that a lot of that comes under the radar when we're in bad form, but not when we're in good form. And ultimately, I don't think the size of the squad is the problem. I think the quality of the squad is. I think when you look at our bench, there aren't enough players that could come on and change the game at all. I don't see any goals on our bench. If we're behind with that 11 that you just said, which would be unchanged, Jack, on Sunday, who are you looking for to come on for a goal? And I know that we should have Nelson there. We should have Muniz there. I get that. I appreciate that. But we don't. And other players haven't stepped up. That's the simple fact of the matter. I thought that Smith Rowe looked dangerous, made stuff happen. Was disappointed he came off. That was another one of my issues with the subs. I thought that Wilson, again, was one of the players making stuff happen like he was against Villa. Same with Sessegnon, where there's just a few players where they look a little bit more interested. And that's not to say that others aren't, but they are more likely to try and make something happen. I think that him and Sessegnon are two of those players. And I think we haven't had enough of those moments. I think there's several issues in our squad from a goal scoring perspective, including our midfield. But I honestly don't know what to put it down to. That first season of the Championship, I almost want to write it off, because it was always like drunk Fulham turning up to Sheffield United losing 4-0, players like Hector that were uninvolved with the squad for most of it. But the Premier League ones concern me far more, because season one, when we came back up, we were trying to get our record points tally. Last season, we're just trying to finish in the top half. This season, trying to finish in Europe. There's always been at least something to fight for at the end of the season, where we should try and finish strong. And you can see from Silva's interviews before the games, calling them cup finals and things like that, he knows the importance of them. So I'm confused at why it's not translating to the performances that we know we can provide when it's a big game. Silva's got us up for some huge occasions. He's one of the only managers that I've seen where he's really got us up for playing Chelsea. And I think that the players bottled that game last month. I think that he sort of did in the second half as well with his subs. But can I say that either he or the players have bottled these last few games? Potentially. And that's what's really disappointing, because ultimately I didn't see any bottle on Saturday when the going got tough. I didn't see any leaders pick us up after going a 1-1 at half-time, or going 2-1 down from Keane, when we still had 20 minutes to score 2 goals and your fate's back in your hands. You know that if you won the last 2 games, you probably finish 8th based on the fact that we play Brentford. So it's just incredibly frustrating. It can't happen again, basically. We'll know next season the magnifying glass is a bit more on after we've had more to play for this season. It cannot happen again. I don't think it will, assuming, hopefully, touch wood, that Silva's still in charge, because I'm nowhere near an argument on that. He's done so much for this club, and I still think there's so much more to come. I'm just hoping that this end of season tail off ends up leading to something good in terms of more investment in the summer, that we can look at a squad that maybe is more capable of challenging for the things that we want to challenge for next season.
Yet again, it just feels like we're the bridesmaid at the best wedding in the world. And what really annoys me, I know we came up with a winner at Southampton, and I know we've come up with winners at Chelsea and at Brentford, but recently it's like, well, Brighton went 2-1 down to West Ham, just came up with 2 goals and won the game. Nottingham Forest on Sunday needed a goal. We were 2-1 down to Leicester. Long ball, Chris Wood, heads in, 2-2. Just out of nowhere. It just feels like Fulham. I don't envisage a situation where, like, okay, I know Pereira did this at the weekend, where like Lukic or Berger just picks up the ball and just hits one from 30 yards and it rifles it. Obviously, that's a very like low XG opportunity, but in terms of like just players, obviously like Belieber picks up that ball and there's like everyone's around him here, pass it wide. He just goes for goal and he scores. I don't think that anyone in our squad has that in their locker. I don't think any player in our squad has the ability to pick up the ball from, let's say, 30 yards, go forward 5 yards, find a bit of space and just slam it into the net, or slam it at least on target. I can just envisage a situation where Pereira, everyone's saying, don't shoot, you've got options, and he goes, I'll shoot, and then he just, like he did on Saturday, straight into the Putney end. Obviously, Harry can cut in and swerve one in from wide and from wide areas, like he did against West Ham last season. Unbelievable goal. But in terms of like a midfielder, just like marauding forward, it just frustrates me. And I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. This is the most important half of the whole season for Fulham, and then we could see 2 goals. It doesn't matter. Should we have had a penalty? If the game was 2-1 and Fulham hadn't got a penalty, I think what's his face on Ref Watch would probably still be talking about it now. Or no, probably wouldn't, because it's only Fulham. It's against Everton. No one really cares about it. But no, let's go hard on Liverpool versus Everton, Liverpool versus Arsenal, and the title's already done and dusted. Sorry, my head is slightly warm. I'm just really sad and frustrated. I'm pleased. The season's been fantastic. If we achieve our records points tally, it's amazing because we could actually achieve our records points tally, but the overriding feeling at the end of the season is going to be one of disappointment, which is incredible. But that's just how football works. I'm looking forward to the summer. I think there's going to be lots going on. I think there's lots of conversations to be had about players in, out, and obviously Silva's still up in the air as well. But Joe, I think we should end it there. Otherwise, I think we're going to spiral a little bit. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I agree with you. It's been a good season. It's just such a deflating end. And, the next time we speak, Jack, will be after that Man City game when we're all done. And, we need to remember the positives, because I think it's been a tough few weeks to be a Fulham fan in terms of you seeing everyone else overtake. You're seeing everyone else do what we thought we were going to do. And look, we might sit there on Saturday watching that Palace City game, which I was expecting to be watching in a sky blue shirt. I'm now not. I've cancelled that plan. But we might sit there and think, 8th wasn't a European spot anyway. That might well be the case. I don't want that to distract from the fact that we could have finished 8th in the league in general, which is a fantastic position. Would have been our joint second best position ever in the Premier League. And I want the record points tally, because I think this has been one of the best Fulham teams that we've had since being a Premier League team originally. But the bottle of this team hasn't lived up to it, and I want them to prove everyone wrong. I want them to go there on Sunday and get a win. And no, it wouldn't make up for everything, but from a fan's perspective, you do not want to be the team that helps hand Brentford Europe. And there's also, I don't want that to be us.
I completely agree. There's also a point to make here that, like, let's just say we do win our next 2 games, end the season with 6 points and break the records tally. I don't necessarily think that's going to fly, because people are going to be like, well, why didn't we do that against thingy?
Why didn't we do it when it mattered? Yeah, why didn't we do it when there was pressure on rather than when there wasn't, you know? But I don't want to be that guy. I'll leave on this one tiny positive.
Yeah.
I don't think this will happen for a second. If we win both games, by the way, there is the slimmest possible chance that we could get Europe. I'll leave you on that.
Oh, do you know what's really made me annoyed? It's the fact that I got my hopes up because I saw those bloody, as it stands, the pots would look like this. And suddenly my head was in a different stratosphere. I started thinking about all the possibilities. I remember I was in an Uber with my brother and we were just talking about, you know, if we go to Europe, we'll do this and honestly, just absolutely got away with. And now, look, there's going to be so many teams in Europe next season. Yeah, there's going to be so many teams in Europe next season. The schedule, the broadcasting schedule is going to be an absolute mess. There's going to be about 6 or 7 teams in England, maybe even more, playing in Europe on a Thursday night or a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, which pushes all the games to Sunday. And suddenly he's going to have like 3 games on a Saturday and all the rest on a Sunday, and then like 1 on a Monday. It's going to look really, really silly and really like not like a Premier League season. However, you know, with those teams being in Europe and the quick turnarounds, us not being in Europe could be a massive advantage for us. It might not be. So, I mean, the next time we speak, like you say, Joe, the dust would have been settled, 38 games done. We'll have a massive discussion about what needs to be done with this squad and who's in and who's out, and our thoughts and feelings about the whole season. But for now, we've got 2 more games to go, Joe, and we'll go into them, hopefully getting some points and stopping Brentford at least from getting Europe. But it's going to be a tall order. Joe, thank you so much for being here today.
Cheers, Jack. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. Enjoy Brentford if you're going. I hope that it's a respectable day rather than the one that we had on Saturday or some other of our recent trips there to either the G-Tech or to Griffin Park. I mean, let's face it, we've had some bad times. We've had some good times there as well. Yet to have a good time at the G-Tech, I must say. So let's hope that changes on Sunday.
Yeah, John Mikel Surrey's shot is still rising when he should have equalised in the Carabao Cup against Brentford. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back at the end of the season for our sort of end of season review, and there'll be lots to talk about as well. Go well, guys, and we'll see you again very, very soon.